Hot glue. A tool used to bind things together. But in the miniature hobby space, it can be so much more. But can it be anything? Can it become a Kraken? Welcome to the channel. Sean and I are intending to create a Sundered Isles actual play show soon, which is a GM-less seafaring game, and if you've ever seen our other actual plays, you know we like to include epic cinematic miniature shots. And one of the things I really wanted to encounter in that game was a Kraken. So now I have to make one. At first I considered 3D printing one, but then I remembered an old DM Scotty video where he made a purple worm and hot glue was one of the primary materials. So I figure, let's see how far I can push it with one of the cheapest and most easily available materials out there. So the goal today is to create 6 Kraken tentacles with hot glue. Join me and let's see if it's possible. But before I can plug my glue gun in, I first have to build a base for the glue to go on. If I made the entire thing with hot glue, it would take way longer and I'd go through so much more glue. And I'm already going to be using a lot for this project. So for the base, I'm going to be using toilet paper rolls and duct tape. About as simple as you can get. And yes, I hoarded toilet paper rolls for weeks to prepare for this project. Now this part wasn't pretty. I cut, taped, twisted, and bent the rolls until I achieved the shape I was mostly happy with. I really wanted all of my tentacles to curl in interesting and dynamic ways. So I did my best to achieve that. Once I had that, I wanted to add some bulk and define the shape a little bit more. So I added layers of aluminum foil and tape, slowly building up the tentacle in sections I thought needed it. After multiple layers, I had something I was pretty happy with. Okay, now I can plug my hot glue gun in. So I'm going to start with adding a seam on each side of the tentacle. Now I'm only going to do one line here, then I'll come back later to beef it up. This will mainly act as a guideline right now for what's the front and what's the back of the tentacle. Now I can start the bulk of the work, covering the entire tentacle in hot glue. Yes, this did take me quite a while. So the process here is to do small sections. I cover a 2 or 3 inch section in glue going in lines. Then I take the tip of the glue gun and run it back along the slowly cooling area. The goal is to leave a ridged texture behind. And if I mess up, things are pretty easy to fix. If the glue isn't too hot, I can just wipe away any excess with my finger. I can also clean things up by just adding more glue. This step took me a bit of patience and some time to figure out the best methods. I found myself constantly switching between the hot and cool settings of the glue gun to reduce dripping and give myself the right amount of time to work. There's kind of an art to it. So after that time-consuming process, the already top-heavy tentacles were even more top heavy. So to counteract that, I'm going to curl it out a bit at the bottom to act as a base. So basically, I just put a bunch of hot glue around the bottom, then sit it down on some parchment paper, because the glue won't stick to that. And let it dry. I repeated that process a couple more times, and it was starting to get to a good place. But there was a massive hole in the bottom, so I stuffed it with aluminum foil, then more hot glue. Pressing that onto the parchment paper created a sturdy and flat surface once dry. Once that's done, now it's time for me to go back and redefine those seams. A few passes and this is starting to look pretty good. From here, I pulled off as many glue strings as I could and burned the rest off with a lighter. I can also use a lighter to clean up sections I'm not happy with. And the final step is to add some suction cups. So I just made circles on the parchment paper and peeled them up when they were dry. Took a little bit of practice. Then I glued those on and added a bunch more layers on top. And these tentacles are starting to look alive. I also added some spikes in a similar way because I thought the back looked a little bit boring. From there, I did a quick paint job. I spray primed them in purple, then hand painted from there. Nothing but cheap acrylic paints. Anything more expensive would have been a waste. A little bit of dry brushing, some simple washes, and this project is done. I'm actually really happy with how these tentacles turned out, and it was way easier to make them than I thought it'd be. Though it did take me quite a while, but these pieces are pretty massive. So hot glue is a pretty fun material to work with. Dry times can be a little bit annoying if you have to wait between every section, but it's more bearable if you work on multiple things at the same time, and it's pretty forgiving. Hot glue is relatively cheap, especially if you buy it in bulk, and you can always use a lighter to fix some mistakes. Just be careful. Hot glue can also be very versatile. It won't work for every project, but there are many applications. I've got a small collection of slimes I've made from hot glue. These guys are so easy to make. And I also made these lava pools from hot glue. We use these all the time. So what do you think? How do my Kraken tentacles look? Is it possible to make the face of the beast with a similar method? Have you ever used hot glue in your builds? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.